The first thing that collapses in any SHTF event isn't the power grid, the supply chain, or the government. It's the illusion that someone is coming to save you. The moment that illusion dies, the world shifts into its real form, raw, hostile, and ruled by those who were preparing long before anyone else realized something was wrong. In that moment, you either adapt instantly, or you become one more body swept aside by desperation. Survival isn't a reaction, it's a habit. When society fractures, the average person waits for instructions. A prepper executes. That divide forms in the first minutes of a crisis, and it widens until only two groups remain: those who move with purpose and those who freeze. The truth is simple and merciless. Your habits decide which side you fall on. Not your strength, not your gear, not your intentions. The quiet routines you build now become the instincts that protect you when the world turns feral. SHTF is not chaos. It's a filter. It strips away comfort, routine, and authority until only discipline matters. Every step, every breath, every decision must be calculated. You don't rise to the level of your hopes. You fall to the level of your training. And if that training doesn't exist, you break. From this point forward, you stop thinking of survival as a plan. You think of it as a lifestyle, silent, controlled, and tactical. A prepper is not someone who collects gear. A prepper is someone who engineers themselves into a difficult target, unseen, underestimated, and unafraid to act when hesitation becomes lethal. If you want to increase your odds of surviving any collapse, start by reshaping the way you live today, long before the world forces you to. Situational awareness is not a skill you turn on during a crisis. It is a constant state, a silent operating system running in the background of your mind every second you are awake. When SHTF erupts, the people who survive are the ones who have already trained themselves to see what others ignore. Awareness is the difference between walking into an ambush and avoiding it without ever realizing how close you came to dying. It is subtle, almost invisible, yet absolutely lethal when neglected. You begin by training your eyes to read environments, not just look at them. Every room, every street, every building becomes a map. Entrances, exits, choke points, blind corners, lines of sight, human flow, pressure spots. You don't analyze these details because you're paranoid. You analyze them because danger hides in the ordinary, and the ordinary becomes a trap the moment society cracks. When people panic, they move predictably. When predators hunt, they position themselves where that panic funnels victims into their reach. Your awareness is the shield that keeps you outside that funnel. You observe people the same way. Hands first, eyes second, posture third. Hands tell you intent. Eyes tell you target. Posture tells you timing. A threat reveals itself long before it speaks, long before it acts. You train yourself to catch micro-signals so subtle the average person never notices them. And once you see them, you never unsee them. This habit works because it becomes instinct. You don't waste energy. You don't broadcast fear. You don't freeze. You absorb the scene, determine your path, and move with precision. In collapse conditions, the unaware become the first casualties. The aware become ghosts, untouched, uncornered, and always one step ahead. OpSec is not secrecy. It is survival through invisibility. When a collapse hits, the greatest danger is not starvation, not scarcity, not even violence itself. The greatest danger is becoming interesting. The moment someone identifies you as a person with resources, skills, or stability, you stop being a neighbor and start being a target. OpSec prevents that transformation. It keeps you forgettable, unremarkable, and strategically underestimated in a world where attention is a death sentence. You begin by controlling information, not just what you say, but what you signal without speaking. Your home, your routines, the supplies you carry, the people you associate with, every detail becomes a potential leak. You don't brag, you don't hint, you don't correct others when they underestimate you. You allow assumptions that keep you safe and bury the ones that expose you. You operate like a shadow, present but unnoticed, active but untraceable. True OpSec demands discipline in the smallest actions. You rotate supplies quietly. You train without an audience. You move gear at hours when no one watches. You keep deliveries discreet, tools stored out of sight, and conversations filtered through a simple rule. If it doesn't benefit you to reveal it, it stays buried. A collapse amplifies curiosity. Desperate people pay attention to patterns. So you eliminate patterns. You stagger routines, vary your paths, and control your footprint so no one can predict your behavior. And above all, you never showcase strength. Strength attracts challengers. Vulnerability attracts predators. But neutrality? That attracts nothing. You blend. You dilute your presence. You become the person no one remembers after a crisis sweeps through a neighborhood. In SHTF, the invisible survive. The noticeable disappear. A stockpile is not a stash of supplies. It is a living system, planned, maintained, and disciplined to function under pressure when everything outside your walls collapses. Most people hoard randomly. Preppers build infrastructure. In a real SHTF scenario, the difference is fatal. Hoarders run out, panic, and expose themselves. A system builder stays stable, predictable, and operational long after the chaos consumes everyone else. You start with rotation, not accumulation. Every item in your home, food, water, medicine, fuel, moves through a cycle. Nothing sits and rots. Nothing becomes obsolete. You consume from the front, restock at the back, and ensure your entire supply chain mirrors military readiness. Fresh, reliable, functional. A stockpile that is not maintained is a liability disguised as preparation. Water becomes your baseline. You store it, purify it, and double redundancy every method you rely on. You never trust a single system. Filters fail. Tablets expire. Wells become contaminated. So you create overlap until failure becomes irrelevant. Food comes next. Calorie-dense, long-lasting, and chosen for efficiency, not comfort. You're not building a pantry. You're building continuity. Medical supplies transform from a box in the closet to a strategic resource. Antibiotics, antiseptics, trauma gear, over-the-counter essentials, all categorized, labeled, and protected from heat, moisture, and time. In SHTF, minor injuries become life-threatening. Your medical system turns preventable deaths into survivable inconveniences. Fuel and energy round out your framework. You calculate burn rates, backup sources, safe storage, and extraction capability. You know exactly how long you can operate without the grid, and you train to stretch that time further. A true stockpile is quiet power. It keeps you fed, hydrated, functional, and hidden. And in collapse conditions, the one who stays functional becomes the one who stays alive. Skills are not knowledge. Skills are muscle memory. Actions you can execute flawlessly when adrenaline spikes, visibility drops, and your mind enters survival mode. In a real SHTF scenario, you won't have time to think, analyze, or recall something you saw in a video 5 years ago. You will only have what you have practiced, and practiced so ruthlessly that hesitation becomes impossible. Survival is physical. Survival is automatic. Survival is repetition forged into instinct. Firecraft becomes more than knowing how to start a fire. It becomes the ability to generate heat under rain, wind, cold, or exhaustion. You master ignition methods that don't depend on convenience. Ferro rods, chemical reactions, pressure ignition. You practice until failure is no longer an outcome. Water purification becomes equally non-negotiable. Filters, tablets, boiling, distillation. You don't just know the methods, you execute them in the dark, in silence, and under stress. Clean water is life. Contaminated water is death pretending to hydrate you. Tool handling evolves into precision. Knives, multi-tools, axes, each tool becomes an extension of your hands. You train grip discipline, cut angles, maintenance routines, and safe handling so you never lose a finger when adrenaline shakes your control. Your tools stay sharp because you maintain them consistently, not desperately after they fail. Home defense drills become part of your lifestyle, not a weekend activity. You practice movement inside your own space, how to clear corners, how to navigate hallways silently, how to identify fatal funnels in your home. You rehearse scenarios you hope will never happen. Break-ins, power outages, forced entries, noise discipline, light discipline, communication without speaking. The drill is your insurance. Skills win where equipment fails. Equipment can break, get stolen, or run dry. But a skill, once hardened by repetition, is impossible for anyone to take from you. And when the world collapses, that makes you dangerous in exactly the way survival demands. Movement becomes a tactical language in any collapse scenario. The way you walk, the routes you choose, the pace you maintain, and the attention you draw determine whether you reach your destination or vanish along the way. In SHTF conditions, the world transforms into a maze of risks, ambush points, choke points, blind turns, and human desperation. Your mobility habits must evolve from casual wandering into deliberate, controlled navigation. You move with intent, not curiosity. You travel with purpose, not routine. Urban terrain becomes your battlefield. Streets shift from pathways to exposure zones. Intersections become decision points. Alleys become traps unless you know how to read them. You scan windows, rooftops, parked vehicles, shadows, every angle where danger hides. You avoid predictable routes. Predictability is a pattern, and patterns get exploited by anyone hunting for resources or victims. You choose paths that offer escape options, concealment, and minimal contact with crowds. Crowds become volatile under stress, and volatility kills faster than hunger. Your EDC is not decoration. It is a toolkit engineered to support mobility. Light, streamlined, quiet. No clanking gear, no bright colors, no items you can't use under stress. You choose essentials that enhance your ability to move, not slow you down. Blade, light source, water procurement, navigation, minimalist med kit. Each item earns its place through utility, not fantasy. And you train to deploy each one fast, silently, and confidently. Movement discipline also means energy conservation. You regulate your breathing, manage your pace, and conserve strength because exhaustion is a vulnerability predators can smell. You stay aware of sightlines, when to be visible, when to vanish, when to lower your profile, and when to blend with civilian flow to avoid drawing attention. In collapse conditions, survival favors the mobile, not the fastest, not the strongest. The ones who can move through danger without announcing their presence. The ones who treat movement as strategy, not motion. Your body is your first tool, your last defense, and the one asset that can't be borrowed, traded, or replaced when the world collapses. In SHTF conditions, weakness isn't an inconvenience, it's a threat multiplier. A slow body slows your decision-making. A fragile body limits your options. An unconditioned body collapses under the simplest stress. Preppers who treat fitness casually are preparing for fantasy, not reality. Survival demands a body capable of sustained output, controlled aggression, and deliberate recovery. Operational fitness doesn't mean bodybuilding. It means function. You train to move weight, not pose with it. You build grip strength so tools don't slip when your hands are wet, bloody, or shaking. You strengthen your core so you can lift, carry, brace, and stabilize without injuring yourself when adrenaline spikes. Your legs carry you through rubble, uneven ground, and long-distance movement when fuel becomes more precious than food. Your lungs keep you sharp when sprinting, fighting, or escaping drains your air faster than you expect. Cardio becomes survival, not aesthetics. Nutrition shifts from cravings to fuel. You eat for stability, clarity, and endurance. You prioritize protein, slow-release carbs, and fats that feed your mind under stress. You cut the foods that sabotage your energy or fog your thinking. Every calorie becomes a tool, not a comfort. Hydration is non-negotiable. A dehydrated prepper makes poor decisions, and one poor decision during collapse is enough to end you. Recovery becomes part of your discipline. Sleep, stretching, injury management, ignored by amateurs, mastered by survivors. You cannot defend, move, or react if your body breaks down. You train with intensity, but you maintain with intelligence. You're not preparing for a single emergency. You're preparing for continuous strain with no guaranteed rest. In collapsed scenarios, gear can fail, plans can fail. But a body built for operational readiness expands your options and shrinks your vulnerabilities. A strong mind inside a weak body is a trapped weapon. You make sure yours is always capable of firing. Your home is not a shelter during a collapse. It is a target, until you turn it into a fortress. In SHTF conditions, criminals, opportunists, and desperate civilians are all looking for the same thing: a place that looks easier to take than defend. Your job is to ensure your home never fits that description. Defense begins long before anyone approaches your door. It begins with eliminating weaknesses, studying your perimeter, and understanding every angle the way a threat would. You start by identifying blind spots, dark corners, shadowed entry points, hidden approaches. These are the zones intruders prefer because they allow observation without exposure. You don't guess where they are. You test them. Walk your property at night, at dawn, in rain, in silence. You learn what can be seen, what can't be heard, and what can be exploited. Once you understand your vulnerabilities, you harden them. Lighting, barriers, visibility control. Each adjustment increases the cost of approaching you. The higher the cost, the faster you're removed from a predator's list of easy targets. Doors and windows are not just openings. They are battles waiting to happen. Reinforced frames, upgraded locks, shatter-resistant films, small investments that turn forced entry into a noisy, time-consuming risk for anyone attempting it. Noise is your ally. Time is your advantage. In SHTF, the intruder who takes too long becomes prey to someone else. You engineer your home to make them choose another house long before the confrontation begins. Inside, you map fatal funnels, hallways, doorways, stairwells where movement becomes predictable. These are places where you get trapped if you don't plan. You identify your defensible positions, safe angles, and fallback points. You practice how to move silently inside your own walls. Light discipline, sound discipline, communication without speaking. A house becomes secure only when its occupants know how to fight inside it without hesitation or confusion. Defense is not aggression. Defense is preparation. You don't wait for a threat to appear. You make your home the wrong place, at the wrong time, for anyone seeking easy resources. In SHTF, survival begins where security is strongest, your perimeter. And you make sure that perimeter never breaks. Human beings become unpredictable when systems fail. Fear amplifies aggression. Scarcity amplifies desperation. And in SHTF conditions, the most dangerous resource isn't food, water, or fuel. It's information about who has them. Social interaction becomes a battlefield where every conversation reveals either strength, weakness, or opportunity. Your habit must be controlled engagement, reading people with precision while revealing nothing about yourself. You start by categorizing individuals quickly and quietly, not by appearance, but by behavior. You watch how they speak, how they move, how they handle stress. You study tone, pacing, hesitation, aggression, and inconsistency. People leak intent through micro-expressions and body language long before their words betray them. You pay attention to patterns. Those who overshare seek validation. Those who ask too many questions seek leverage. Both are risks. In collapsed scenarios, chatter becomes a weapon, and silence becomes armor. You build a small, trusted network, not based on friendship, but capability, reliability, discipline, emotional control. You don't invite people who need saving. You choose people who can hold a line, follow a plan, and protect a perimeter without drama. Loyalty grows from competence, not sentiment. A weak link isn't just a liability. It's a beacon that draws threats directly to you. OpSec still rules every interaction. You never discuss your supplies, your routines, your plans, or your capabilities. You let others believe you're managing just like everyone else. You avoid displays of abundance or preparedness. People are more dangerous when hungry, but they're lethal when they believe you're the solution to their hunger. You don't give them that belief. You learn to walk away from conversations that probe too deeply. You master neutral expressions and vague answers. You practice controlled empathy, enough to avoid conflict, never enough to invite dependency. During collapse, desperation spreads like fire. You don't let it reach your doorstep through emotional manipulation or misplaced kindness. In SHTF, alliances must be strategic. Interactions must be filtered. Trust must be earned, not given, and your survival depends on understanding one truth. People become threats long before they act like threats. You read them early, you stay ahead, and you stay unexposed. Escape planning is not paranoia. It is the highest form of strategic thinking in a collapse. When SHTF hits, the environment becomes fluid. Roads blocked, neighborhoods destabilized, choke points weaponized by desperate civilians or opportunists. If you don't have layered exit routes before the crisis, you won't have any when the crisis unfolds. Mobility without planning is chaos. Mobility with structure is survival. You create multiple routes because a single plan is a trap disguised as confidence. Route A is your fastest exit. Route B is your safest. Route C is the one no one would ever expect you to use. Each path is walked, timed, and memorized. You test them in daylight, at night, in rain, and under fatigue. You learn the sounds, the hiding spots, the bottlenecks, the places where visibility narrows and danger multiplies. You understand where crowds will form, and then you avoid those places entirely. Caches become your silent allies. small hidden resource points placed along your escape routes. Water, fire starters, medical essentials, backup tools, copies of critical information. These caches turn a long escape into a sustainable journey. You never rely on carrying everything. You rely on strategic distribution. A prepared mind creates distance. A prepared route creates survival. Communication is planned with the same precision. You establish signals, not conversations, hand signs, light flashes, silent cues, predetermined rendezvous points. Collapse destroys communication networks, but it cannot destroy rhythm and planning. Your team knows where to go if contact breaks. They know when to abandon a route. They know when to shift from movement to concealment. Timing becomes the final weapon. You don't flee with the crowd. You leave before the crowd realizes they should. Or you move long after chaos exhausts itself. You exploit windows of low movement, low visibility, and maximum unpredictability. Predictable timing gets you trapped. Dynamic timing keeps you alive. In SHTF, escape isn't running. Escape is strategy. It's preparation that eliminates panic. And those who plan multiple exits are the ones who never get cornered in the first place. Survival is not a destination. It is a discipline, one that decays the moment you stop sharpening it. In any collapse, the world punishes stagnation. Conditions shift, threats evolve, resources vanish, people change. What kept you alive last month may fail you tomorrow if you aren't constantly reassessing your capabilities. The prepper who believes they are ready enough has already started to die. The habit that keeps you alive is relentless improvement, auditing, refining, and rebuilding your systems before the world forces you to. You begin by testing yourself, not in fantasy scenarios, but in controlled stress environments. Turn off your power for a night and see what breaks. Shut down your water for a day and watch where your system fails. Move through your home in darkness until you know every step by foot feel. You discover weaknesses through experience, not imagination. Every failure is a lesson. Every lesson is an upgrade. Your gear receives the same scrutiny. Tools dull, batteries drain, supplies expire, systems degrade. You don't wait for collapse to reveal these flaws. You audit them regularly, methodically, and without emotion. What is unnecessary gets removed. What is failing gets replaced. What is outdated gets improved. Gear is not sentimental, it is strategic. If it no longer serves the mission, it leaves your inventory. Your plans evolve too. New routes, new contingencies, new responses to threats you didn't consider before. You rehearse different scenarios: natural disasters, medical emergencies, civil unrest, supply shortages, forced displacement. You practice until each response is instinctive. You never assume tomorrow will resemble today. Discipline is the thread that binds your entire preparation. It is silent, invisible, and absolute. It keeps you training when motivation fades. It keeps you vigilant when others relax. It keeps you improving when others deteriorate. In SHTF, your strongest asset is not gear, strength, or even knowledge. It is the refusal to become complacent. A prepared individual survives the first phase of collapse. A disciplined individual survives all of them. You choose which one you become every single day.